she didn't forget. Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for the waves. It's good to see everybody. You are in the right place if you're here for the talk on gear. And we'll get started in just a second. I was on a Zoom call last night, and as they let people in, they had really fun music playing.
We should have done that.
We should have had music. Yeah, sorry everybody.
Get that mandolin.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You didn't mention. I know. I was just, having a little fun, keeping it light, special, spicy. Shannon, you have time if you want to go get your gear on. Thanks, Sue. You've got time. You can go get your gear. I should have put it in the email today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're just going to give it one more minute because we still have a few people joining us in the waiting room, and I will be right back. Oh, there's you, Shannon.
Me?
You can do the emitting, the
this.
clicking.
I
Yeah.
can click.
You can do it.
I got it.
All right, everybody, we're just about ready to get started. Thank you so much for joining. I am Deborah Kane. I am the president of the Lower Columbia Canoe Club, and you are joining a Lower Columbia Canoe Club talk on gear. If you're not already familiar with the club, we are a recreational paddling club based in Portland, Oregon, and we've been putting on these online talks this January, February, and March. So if you're not familiar with the talk and you're joining us because you saw the post on the Werner page or the Kokatat page, I'll put some information in the chat so you can check out the club. We've got a slew of other great speakers coming up for the next few weeks. But tonight, and one thing that I wanted to mention for folks who, and I see lots of familiar faces and lots of faces of members. So if you are a member of the Lower Columbia Canoe Club, our flatwater chair, Sammy, had wanted me to mention tonight that we, this coming weekend, we had scheduled our annual Sweetheart Paddle. That's the, flatwater moving water paddle where we always encourage you to grab a friend or a loved one and enjoy the river, in pairs. And we had scheduled it for Sunday because Sunday was the closest day to Valentine's Day, Sunday, February 13th. So we, as of right now, we're ready to go with the Sweetheart Paddle on Sunday. Late breaking news, however, it turns out, and I'm going to introduce my friend here in just a second, but it turns out that Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, and so that might have presented a conflict for some folks. And so we've rearranged the day just a little bit. We'll be getting a start at 9:30 in the morning on Sunday, which I'm assured is plenty of time to get people back onto their couches with, your chips and your dip if you want to watch the game. But we did also send a note out today. I'm asking people their preference. So if we have a ton of Super Bowl enthusiasts who would really prefer that we did the Sweetheart Paddle the following weekend, or if we rescheduled it, we're happy to do that. So if you would just respond to the note that went out to club members today and let Sammy know what your preference is. We'll go with the majority. Okay, so that's the update from the club. And tonight we're having a conversation about gear, which is why I happen to be dressed in basically all my gear except for my shoes. I've just got my stocking feet. And we are joined tonight by representatives from Kokatat. So to my left or right, depending on how you're experiencing this. Dear friend Shannon Finch, who is the, I want to say marketing director. Can I call you that?
No, brand manager.
Brand manager of Kokatat is going to be talking to us about at least two of the items that I'm wearing, dry suits and PFDs. And then we also have Taylor Robertson, who's recognizable because he's got the big Werner paddles in the background. He's going to talk to us about paddles. And then we also have Ted Keys, who'll be giving us tips and insights on helmets. And so what we thought we would do is we're going to start with Shannon. We're going to start on dry suits and PFD.
Hey, I was just wondering about canoe polo.
Oh yeah. So Jane.
And just a reminder to mute yourselves. I keep doing the mute all, which means if you're one of my speakers, you're going to need to unmute yourselves. So Shannon, you have notes. So
I have some notes.
Shannon has got some notes. I'm going to hand it over to you, and then I think from you we're going to go to Taylor. And our thought was that I would keep an eye on the chat. We would take questions as they came in, and we'd also have ample time at the end for a fuller and richer discussion if you didn't get your specific question about gear answered. So with that, I am going to scoot this way.
Okay, I'll scooch this way.
You go that way, and I will give you the whole frame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, Deborah. Yeah, I met Deborah back in 2012. I was an instructor at Otterbar Kayak School, and since then I got to join her on a Grand Canyon River trip where I got to see firsthand her impeccable leadership skills as our TL, and yeah, I'm honored to call her my river friend and friend.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
thanks for having me here tonight. So as Deborah said, I am the brand manager for Kokatat, and we are based in Arcata, California. Last year we celebrated our 50th year in manufacturing drywear and technical paddle apparel, and we are, do you need me to shift it all?
No, you're good. I'm just going to admit some.
Oh, we're admitting folks.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we've been dedicated to creating sustainable products that really last a lifetime, and we're pretty proud to be an American-made manufacturer based in Northern California. We did want to speak a little towards the COVID situation and how that's affected us at Kokatat alongside the greater, outdoor industry and just world as a whole, but it's really put a pretty good halt on our manufacturing abilities with supply chain issues, and we're doing our best to catch up from that. And one of Kokatat's biggest efforts was to get products into our retailers first, and so that's why you'll really see a lot of empty spaces on our website. So if you're looking for product there, it's a little hard to find, but if you go to your local retailers, that would be the first place to check now. With that said, we just relaunched our custom suit program. So that's a good sign that we're kind of starting to move into a good direction. So yeah, as Deborah mentioned, I'm going to speak to things to consider when you're purchasing either a dry suit or a life vest. We've moved back to calling them life vests.
Okay, I didn't know.
I know.
Thank you.
Well, you can call it whatever you want, but the PFD got really confusing with PDFs, and I don't know. It seems like we just transitioned back to saying life vest is fine. But first, the first three keys that I would suggest when you're considering purchasing a new dry suit. First would be fabric, fit, and then your features. So speaking first towards the fabric, we make all of our dry suits, regardless of fabric, in our Arcata factory, which is really great because those can also be serviced right in our Arcata factory as well. So the two main types of fabrics are going to be Gore-Tex, which we all are familiar with, and Hydrus, which is a waterproof fabric as well, but it's an in-house fabric that we make. So speaking first towards Gore-Tex, Kokatat's worked with WL Gore since the beginning of Kokatat to help develop some of the most durable, waterproof, breathable fabrics for like immersion wear. So we helped develop their seam taping, and we've really been involved with their process from the beginning, since our beginning anyhow. So when you purchase a Gore-Tex suit, it is a really big investment, but it really is going to be the most durable option that we offer. And likewise, it's going to be the most breathable option. So Gore-Tex is going to be super waterproof, super durable, but also as you generate heat as you're paddling, it's going to be the most breathable option. Regardless of whatever fabric you purchase from Kokatat, all of the dry suits that we make are 100% field tested before they leave our factory, which is also pretty cool. So any suit you purchase from us, it's going to be filled up with water, and we make sure that it doesn't have any leaks before it leaves the factory, which is pretty cool. So you know that it's 100% dry when it comes to you. The other option that we have is going to be the more budget-friendly option. That's our Hydrus material. So Hydrus is going to be waterproof. And honestly, right off the shelf, you probably wouldn't notice any difference in breathability. But where you are going to see a difference is in durability. So although it's a good suit, it's durable, it's probably not going to last as long as your Gore-Tex. So if you're really considering the two, that's kind of where you're going to see the main difference. So if you're paddling 2 to 3, 4 times a year, Hydrus is probably all you really need. But if you're looking to invest in something that'll last a lot longer and you're paddling a lot more than that, I would say you're best to invest in something like the Gore-Tex option. So the next thought is your fit. When you go on the website at Kokatat, we've got a whole array of things that'll help you measure. So we're going to look at your height, your inseam, your sleeve length, your girth, your waist size. We're going to take that all into account when you measure for your suit. A lot of folks will maybe add inches to some of those measurements, thinking that, oh, hey, I'm going to add a lot of insulation, so I'll add a little, like an inch to my waist. Well, we've already accounted for that. So I would say if you're going to take your measurements, just take accurate measurements. Otherwise, you're going to get a really wonky sized suit. So we assume you're going to be layering, and so we've already accounted for that when you take your measurements. If you've taken your measurements and you find that like I don't fit within the standard suit size that Kokatat's offering, that's where you're going to want to jump into our custom builder. So we can add or remove length from your sleeves and your legs, or we can add length to your torso. And likewise, we can adjust sock size and gasket size. So a lot of options there, in addition to creating whatever color scheme you can imagine. I've definitely been guilty of spending hours on the custom builder just playing with colors. So yeah, lots to do there, and a lot of options. So, and likewise, you can switch up what kind of relief zippers you want on your suit. So once you've got your fabric chosen and you've got your fit down, the next thing is the features that you want to consider. So first thing, we've got suits that come with the overskirt and suits that don't have an overskirt. So suits with the overskirt are going to be intended for kayakers, anyone that's going to use a tunnel. So that's just going to go over the tunnel, so your skirt goes inside, and it'll prevent the water from going in your kayak skirt. If you're not interested in that, you're not kayaking, you're more of a rafter, or just a person that doesn't get in a hard shell kayak, you could get a suit that doesn't have an overskirt, and really have no need to purchase one or pay more for that feature. Next thing to consider is your zipper placement. So we kind of have 3 main zipper placements. We've got the traditional, across the chest, like Deborah's got going on here with her Gore-Tex fabric Meridian. She's rocking the metal tooth zipper.
Thank you.
I know, it looks good.
Thanks.
Most of our suits, in fact, all of our suits anymore, have a nylon zipper. It sits flatter on your body and it's a little more pliable.
Okay.
We also don't make mango color anymore. So Deborah is probably in for potentially some upgrades. Who knows? I don't know. No, it's still a fantastic suit. So we've got the across the chest zipper, which comes in the Meridian and the Legacy suit and the Odyssey suit for the sea kayakers. That's probably our most popular. It's the suit that I wear for sure. Really easy to get on and off by yourself. The second option is going to be what we feature in our Icon suit, and that is a zipper that goes across the back on the upper shoulders. I find that to be a really comfortable zipper in that I'm not feeling anything underneath my life vest, but I've found that it's, for me, really difficult to put on or take off by myself. When I had an Icon suit, I was driving a Subaru at the time, and I had a roof rack that I like attached a hook to, and I would like do this thing and like put my suit on and take it off all by myself. But I don't do that anymore. I've moved back to the Meridian. So you've got the back zipper on the Icon, and then the last zipper choice would be on the Idol suit, which is a waist zipper that separates the suit all together. So a lot of pros in that suit because you've got no zipper on the upper, so it really feels like you're just wearing a dry top. Very comfortable. You can just wear the top, so you don't actually have to wear the full suit, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. Or likewise, I've also used it hiking in to different runs. I might wear the lower and then have the upper stashed in my boat and put it on when I'm actually paddling. Really, really great suit, but a little more effort goes into learning how to use the housing on that zipper system. So it works really well, but you do have to put some effort into learning that zipper system. Other options are your relief zippers. So all of our women's stock suits come with a rear relief zipper, and our men's come with the front relief zipper. So if you're wanting to mix it up and do something different, you can build that in the custom. So a lot of options, but that's just how they come stock. And then the other options that you can add in the custom are going to be like hoods and suspenders and reflective tape and pockets. So yeah, a lot of different options there. So that's kind of the basic features that you want to consider when you're purchasing a suit. But once you have purchased it, some of the main things, like the tips and tricks to really make your investment last, are number one, you got to wash it. Wash your suit, wash your dry suit, wash your ski jackets, wash everything that's technical. I don't know why as an industry we don't. I don't wash my stuff near enough. But the dry suits it's a waterproof membrane, but they're coated in a DWR coating. It stands for durable water repellency. So that comes coated on the suit. That's what's making your suit beat up with water when you first get it. And over time, you're like, oh, it feels like my suit's not staying as dry or it's wetting out. But more than likely, the Gore-Tex membrane or even the Hydrus membrane is still doing its job. Your DWR coating has started to wear. And really, it's just getting coated with some dirt and grime. And the good news is you can bring it back to life simply by washing it. So wash your suit. The way that we recommend washing it is put it in a front-loading wash on a gentle cold cycle using a really gentle liquid detergent. Probably going to do a double rinse cycle on it. Hang it to dry. Super simple. The same process if you're going to send your suit in for a Kokatat testing, we want you to wash it that same way. But yeah, simply washing your suit, you'll find that the DWR will really kind of kick back to life and you'll be beating up water in no time. Okay, next, gasket care. You want to lube your gaskets with a 303 protectant, probably every 4 to 6 months. Okay, so you can buy this on Amazon. I think it comes with most of the suits we send out anymore. A lot of times people will think, oh, cool, if I should do it 4 to 6 times a year or so, 4 to 6 months. Every 4 to 6 months, maybe I should just do it every time I wear it. That'll be better, and that's not true. Actually, less is probably more in this situation. If you do it too much, it'll have kind of the opposite effect. So once every 4 to 6 months is appropriate. And when you store that gasket, just make sure it's out of the direct sunlight, and that'll kind of prevent it from drying out and cracking. So just every 2 or 3 times a year is probably enough on that. The gaskets, the neck gaskets, are actually designed to be trimmed. So if you're feeling like your eyeballs are bulging out of your head when you're wearing your dry suit, trim your gasket. Don't be afraid to trim it. People are so afraid to trim it. They're designed to be trimmed. There's little lines on the inside. Take a sharp pair of scissors and trim just between the lines and try to make a nice even cut. Just go one line at a time and find it until you are nice and comfortable. If you get to the point where you really mess it up, send it to us and we'll put a new one in for you. Not a big deal. The wrist gaskets are not designed to be trimmed. Okay, so we can stretch them out though. So I recommend throwing in, Campbell's tomato soup can in the wrist. Try to stretch it out a little bit that way. If that's not working, go with the Progresso chicken noodle soup, a little bigger can. Just slowly stretch those out until you find it fitting nice and well. The zippers need to be treated carefully. The biggest failure in suits and the reason people get wet is because they failed to zip their zippers all the way. Your entry zipper and your relief zipper. So double check those before you get in the water. And the way you want to care for those is just making sure that they're not getting coated in grime or sand. Clean those as best you can after a sandy river trip. And when you store a suit that has a nylon zipper, you're going to want to store it with that zipper all the way closed. Roll the suit up nice and loose and just store it somewhere dry. If you're like Deborah Kane and you're rocking a metal tooth zipper, you're going to want to zip that about 2 inches from the closure and store it that way. That's just going to prevent the seals from having too much pressure. So that's the way you want to do that. Yeah, it's probably how you've been doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And the last tip on keeping this suit protected is those socks. They're so sensitive. Deborah and I were on a trip and someone came running by camp with just in their socks in their borrowed dry suit, and we were like, ooh. Those socks need to be protected. That's probably the most vulnerable piece of the suit. So I recommend put a wool sock underneath your dry suit, then your sock, and then throw a nice thin neoprene sock over the top before you slide it into your river shoe or river bootie. So it doesn't have to be a super bulky system, but that really helps protect that sock, and you'll find that over time you'll be much more dry. So that's kind of my main tips on the dry suits, wear, tear, and care. Moving into purchasing a life vest, we've got 3 different things to consider: the features you want, the flotation, and the fit. So with features, we think about the type of activity you're doing. So we've got life vests specific to sea kayaking, whitewater, fishing, kind of that casual recreational paddling. So really considering the sport that you're doing, and make sure that you choose a life vest that's appropriate for it. They have different fits, they have different flotation, they have different pockets. So just make sure that you choose a vest that's appropriate for your sport, and probably not a lot of crossover on your fishing vest might not work so well as your, class 4 whitewater vest. So pick a vest that's appropriate for your sport. Flotation is going to be super important here too. If you are a whitewater kayaker or a sea kayaker that's out in kind of more rowdy water conditions or potentials for longer, more turbulent swims, you're going to want a vest with a lot of flotation. So all of our vests kind of showcase the flotation that they have. Our Centurion, like the vest that Deborah will put on here in a second, is our highest float. It changes a bit in size, so Deborah's wearing the extra small, I would imagine. And that vest is going to have 16.5 pounds of flotation. As you get up into the extra large size, it bumps up to about 18 pounds of flotation. The biggest key to think here is just the more flotation, the higher you're going to float if you're taking a really big swim. So for me, I would consider a higher flotation vest over a really low profile vest, because I like to think of dressing for the potential swim versus, having a super low profile vest. think of yourself, you want to pop up like a cork when you end up in the water. And the last thing, and probably the most important, is the fit and the adjustments of the straps. So start off with finding a vest that fits your body, you know, like Deborah's in the extra small. I'm also in that size, but we're definitely different sizes, but that size fits me well. Once I've got that base size, I really focus on the adjustments of the straps. So we design our vest to be adjusted from the bottom strap up. So you're gonna start on the lowest strap, tighten that one. If there's 3 kind of torso straps, you're gonna go lowest, middle, upper, and shoulders last. So that's really gonna allow that vest to kind of suck into your body. Whether you're shaped like this or like this, it really makes that vest hold on to your body. If you're wearing a rescue vest, and you have a rescue belt, the rescue belt is not designed to snug the vest to your body. It's designed to be the rescue belt. So that's just meant to be pulled taut, but that's not what's keeping the vest on your body. So just to reiterate, start from the bottom strap and work your way up, and then get those shoulder straps snug at the very end. Considering the rescue vests, I did want to speak a little bit towards rescue vests specifically. Deborah's got one of our vests. She had the Centurion on, and then I've also got our other platform, which is the Hustler vest. This is our 50th anniversary version. But things to consider if you're going to wear a rescue life vest. Number 1, get the training and the experience to use it appropriately. If you're just like the rescue vest because it's the one you want and it's the one you like, great. But before you step into using the rescue tools and functions of that vest, it's so important that you really get the appropriate training, because you could very well become a victim just by not using these tools appropriately. Some of the key points: you never ever want to clip this rescue toe tether into any point that's a hard point. So you would never want to clip it to a hard point on the vest. We've designed our Centurion and our Hustler to have this breakaway D-ring that just pulls away if you were to get attached to something on this. So only ever attach that locking carabiner that's attached to your toe tether to a breakaway point. That's one of the main keys. And I've really reconsidered any time I'm gonna even clip myself to a boat or something. I think that too often it's easy to just clip yourself to something because it's easy, but man, it can really get away from you quickly. So the times I'd consider it after good training would be, you know, if you're an instructor, and for me, I'm an instructor, but I really only clip myself to something if I'm in really mellow class 2 water anymore. That's just my standard for myself. I don't clip myself to anything if it's greater than that. I'll push boats to shore. You know, I really don't like to take that risk. Another good reason for a toe tether with experience is if you were to be towing like an unresponsive person to shore. And I think the most likely use for me is if I'm just getting out of my boat in like a sketchy situation, like a sketchy zone. I can clip myself to my boat and be hands-free, get out of it really quick, and get out. But again, really consider it. Be safe out there. Take a rescue course if you're going to use it. And I don't know. I don't mean to be on a high horse about it. Kokatat really wants everyone to be safe, and that's something that we see a lot of, and we just want people to stay on top of their rescue training if they're going to utilize these tools. That's kind of my main spiel tonight. I'm happy to field any questions, but
Yeah. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah.
Because Shannon and I are sharing the screen and using the same computer, I was not able, I'm sorry everyone, to monitor the chat as much as I usually do. We have one or two quick questions we might be able to take. So any chance you want to mention simple weave versus complex weave of the safety belt?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Clay. Yes, so there's actually only one way that we goodness, I'm
Recommend.
stronger than this. That we recommend weaving the rescue belt. This is the only way. We don't recommend anything but this. So, how are we doing? So you've got your rescue belt and the metal buckle. The belt's going to go through the lower hole that's closest to the PFD. It's going to thread through that one. Then it's going to back through the upper hole. That's when you can cinch that down just to be snug to your body so that you don't have anything that can snag here. And at that point, it's going to back up through the plastic buckle. And then that needs to be cinched down. So by using that configuration, it's designed to hold the weight of 2 people in moving water, and should not have any type of pre-release. So that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
That's it. I'm so glad someone asked that
Thanks,
question.
Clay. I appreciate it too.
And I have to say, I was doing simple for years at the suggestion of someone was like, well, if you don't know how to use it, just get it in there and get it out of your way. And then I mentioned that in a Swiftwater rescue course, and the response was obvious, which was, well, if it's on your life jacket, the people who are rescuing you are going to assume that you did it correctly. Yep. So how awful would it be? I also want to get Chuck's question answered before we move on to our next speakers. Because Chuck, I had the same question. First of all, I just want to say, Shannon, I don't do any of those things that you just talked about to my dry suit. I feel so bad for this thing. I'm going to wash it immediately. I've never put anything on the gaskets. Oh, I don't do the zipper thing that you said. And I just shove my bare booty into my shoe. So Chuck and I want you to say it one more time. What are we supposed to do?
What I personally do, and what I think is the best for your suit and your feet, is a nice light wool sock. Goes on first. That's on your foot. You can put that into your dry suit sock, the booty that comes on attached to your dry suit. Then I like to put a nice light neoprene sock over the top of that before I slide it into my river shoe of choice.
Okay, so you're wearing
light wool sock.
Two socks and a booty in a shoe.
And then the Gore-Tex sock, a nice light neo, and then my shoe. And that, I feel like, is the best option for protection. Okay, perfect. And I see a question about, I wash my idle Gore-Tex dry suit by hand with Tech Wash and keep it clean, but the DWR does not seem to be working anymore. How can I revive the DWR? That'll be our last question on dry suits and life jackets. And thank you for telling me I'm allowed to call it a life jacket again. You're welcome. Welcome
so
back.
Much easier.
So easy.
God.
Great question. It's a little bit tricky. The best way to actually reactivate, outside of washing, the best way to reactivate DWR in technical apparel is actually by drying it. But that's a bit tricky with our suits because of the gaskets. So I'd say, a light drying cycle, making sure that you're aware of your gasket, may give it a little bit of a life back, but wash it. I don't think you need to hand wash it. Throw it in a front loading machine and really try to get that suit clean, and see if that gives you some assistance in getting that DWR back to life. And then the drying cycle. Okay. Yeah. But be light on that drying cycle. Be careful with those gaskets, you don't want to just throw it on high heat. Shari, we will circle back to you about the ironing question, because I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about paddles and also the so important helmet. So with that, Taylor, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk to us about paddles.
All right. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Deborah. It's great to be here, and it's great to be on this call with everybody. I guess it's probably the next best thing to being on the water together. My name's Taylor. I'm the marketing and sales director here at Werner Paddles, and I'm coming to you guys all from our headquarters here in Monroe, Washington. And I think for tonight, we'll do a couple of things. I'll give you a little brief history on Werner, how we got to be where we are, what we're doing today. We'll talk about some product. I got some product here to show you, and then we'll talk about some tips and tricks and go from there. So Werner really starts with Werner and Martha Furr, and they're were from Switzerland, and post World War II, they migrated over here to the Northwest, and they started getting into kayaking and climbing. And there was no REI, obviously, at that point in time to go out and buy a paddle or a boat. So they really started building and designing everything from the ground up. And that was paddles, boats, ice axes. And they would use this logo, you may not be able to see it so well here, to kind of stamp their gear. They would loan their gear out to their friends. They wanted everybody to get into the outdoors. And if you look at this logo, there's a W for Werner, an M for Martha. The birds represent the freedom of the outdoors, getting outside, enjoying the water, the mountains, whatever. And then the circle represents unity. Werner started as a family-run company. Today, Bruce Furr, one of Werner's sons, is still the president. We're a privately held company. Today, we're about 50 employees strong from all walks of life. We're paddlers, we're outdoorsmen and women. And we're all here to really take pride in building the best possible paddles on the water for you guys to enjoy. As Shannon mentioned, you know, it has been a struggle here for the last couple of years, and mainly with sourcing and getting paddles to you guys. And we appreciate your patience. And I'm here to tell you, knock on wood, things are getting better for us. And so, as Shannon mentioned as well, please go out and visit our retail partners. Our website is sold out currently, but we're following through with our commitments to make sure that our retail partners have paddles. So if you can't find the paddle you're looking for, call us and we'll help you find it. And then hopefully here soon, we'll have some more product on our website for you as well. So tonight, we're going to kind of focus in on whitewater paddles. But I also have some touring paddles here, and I'm available to answer questions on tour, stand-up, canoe, raft, whatever it may be. But you know, one thing here at Werner that we've always tried to focus in on is something we call ultimate paddle performance. And we achieve this by selecting the highest grade materials. We have staff and engineers with, you know, many years of experience, and we combine that to build this paddle that's going to provide you with the most comfortable day on the water, and then as well off the water, right? When you get done, you don't want to feel sore or worn out, so we want you to be comfortable in both those areas. We also want to build a paddle that's efficient, a paddle that pulls through the water nicely, doesn't flutter, it's going to be lightweight. And so we do that by, again, selecting these materials, and we have kind of a good, better, best. As Shannon talked about Hydrus versus Gore-Tex, we've kind of got 3 different levels. And what I'm going to do is start out right now kind of talking about the best. And this is the paddle or the material that's going to give you the best experience on the water. A couple things, this is the Stikine, and I know sometimes it's hard to see this. And you can see this is a carbon paddle. We know carbon is light, right? Well, one thing that a lot of folks don't consider is carbon is also stiff. And having a stiff blade provides maximum energy transfer to the water. You know, your paddle really is your motor, right? Any boat or board is going to float you, but this is what you're physically utilizing to pull yourself through the water. So when we're looking at what we call this as our ultimate performance line, you'll see that this blade is also a little thicker, right? The profile is not thin like some of our other paddles. There's some thickness here to this blade. And what that profile does is it provides buoyancy. And it allows for a nice lift at the end of my stroke and actually assists in lifting the blade out of the water. A couple of other benefits of our performance blades is bracing, right? If you have something nice and buoyant to lean on when you get knocked over by a wave, you're going to have a little more stability. How about rolling? When you're upside down, you want that blade to float to the surface so you can execute that roll. The ultimate performance blade is going to provide those elements. A couple other things you'll find in pretty much all of our paddles, something that we really revolutionized many years ago, Werner did, was this what we call dihedral. And dihedral is a ridge that goes down the center of the blade. And when water hits the center of this blade, it sheds off either side, creating a nice stable stroke. Without this dihedral ridge, you would get fluttering as you pull the paddle through the water. So some things to think about there. Carbon is nice and strong. It's got great strength to weight ratio. But we also put this layer of what we call Dynel around the edging. It's this white layer you can see here. And that also helps to cut down on chipping and so forth. What you'll see in my hand here with the Stikine is this has the bent shaft option. And I'm going to explain, just kind of break down a bent shaft here real quick and explain some of the benefits. And what I have in my hands here is a straight shaft. And when I'm taking a stroke with a straight shaft, I can get bending in my wrists, which that energy can transfer to my elbow and my shoulder and cause overuse injuries, pain, tendonitis, and so forth. What our bent shaft does, and we call our shaft a neutral bent shaft, is it puts your wrist in a nice straight position. My wrist is lined up with my elbow and my shoulder, and it's really going to help to cut down on bending. And if you have arthritis, your shoulders tend to hurt, when you get out on the water, that is something definitely to consider, is that bent shaft option. It's available on pretty much all of our paddles. There are some downsides. The weight does come up, and of course the price comes up a little bit, but the main benefit is ergonomics. And if you think about, a good example is if you go into the gym and you grab a curl bar, it looks like this, it's not straight. Or your handlebars on a mountain bike, they're generally bent. We're building equipment that works well and aligns well with your body's mechanics. So we just talked about, the ideal whitewater paddle. It's got that foam core, it's carbon, it's light. As we move down into the next line of paddles, what we call premium.
Taylor.
Yes.
And I know that that you know this, but I just want to make sure, because you can't see them, we've got some comments in the chat just reminding us that we're half canoers and half kayakers.
Got it. Okay, so
don't forget about us.
Yes, absolutely. So the canoe, I'm happy to answer any questions about canoes, canoe paddles. And I think the best thing for me, because I can't see up on the screen because it's far away, is maybe we can cover those at the end.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, it'd be great if you don't mind reading to me as well. Yeah. Okay, so next we've got the Powerhouse, which is our premium line of paddles. This is going to be a fiberglass layup, and fiberglass is great because it's really impact resistant. So, you can take these and just drag them on rocks and they hold up really well. The comparable canoe paddle would be the Bandit. It's a premium laminate fiberglass. You get a good shot at it right here. And you can see a lot of the craftsmanship that goes into these paddles. Each one of these paddles is touched by 6 different pairs of hands before it leaves the factory. So this is our straight shaft. It's got a fiberglass shaft, very durable, and that's more of our mid-price paddle. One thing we always talk about, this is more of a safety feature, is, especially, if you're whitewater paddling, having a 4-piece paddle in your boat is important. Unless you plan on hiking up to the road from the river or the lake, or you're out in the Puget Sound and you lose your paddle, you got to have an extra option. So having a 4-piece is a backup inside of your boat or in your touring boat or your canoe, strapped onto the deck is a great idea. So don't forget the 4-piece option. Okay, so moving on here. We offer a similar paddle. I guess, if we're just coming off talking about Kokatat, there's a Hydrus line. We have what we call our IM line. And so this is an injection molded blade. And what happens here is obviously the price is going to come down, but the weight is going to come up considerably. And then what we lose here is rigidity. We talked about rigidity and carbon being great for energy transfer. You can see here, this this blade is going to bend, right? So a great option for somebody who's going to go out, you know, maybe 4 or 5 times in the summer. It's a great instructional paddle. Folks who you know, have kayak schools use this. But what I like to say is I don't want you guys to buy this paddle. You're going to have a much better trip with the former models that I ship. Okay. So with whitewater, we've got a couple of different blade shapes. And the blade shapes I just showed you are what we call a river running style blade shape. And that's got more surface area here at the tip. It's got this asymmetrical design. Works great for just going from point A to point B downriver. For those of you who like to surf or do tricks or play boating, we have what's called a play boating blade. And with our play boating blade, we've got more surface area down here at the bottom end of the blade, and a little more surface area here at the throat. And the idea with the play boating blade is if I'm surfing on a wave, I'm going to have better connection with the water if I'm ruddering and surfing right here by having more surface area down here at the tip. Or if I'm balancing or bracing on the paddle, I'm going to have more surface area here at the throat for a more stable brace. Now, we sell 70% of what we sell to the marketplace is this more general river running shape. Does that mean you couldn't river run with a play boating paddle? No. Both of these work for either discipline, and one just works better for either river running or play boating. Okay, let's talk just a little bit about sizing. It's so important to have the proper size paddle. And with kayaking, most of the kayaks these days are pretty similar in width. They may vary a little bit, but we use a simple process. And anytime you're in a store, you can just go to one of our hang tags and you just basically enter your height. We also have a great fit guide on our website. Enter your height and it'll give you the length paddle that you're looking for. Paddles that are for play boating are generally just slightly shorter because people are manipulating the paddle more for tricks. Common sizes for river running blades are 197 centimeter up to about 203. Paddles seem to be getting longer right now. I couldn't tell you why. So let's talk about some other things. I've had the good fortune of growing up with kayaking. It was great. My parents got me into it, and I got on the U.S. kayak team and got to travel around quite a bit. And I always come back to some basics when, even when I'm on dry land or doing one of these Zoom meetings, some things to really think about, some tips when you're getting out on the water. And I find myself, especially like last weekend, I was paddling a difficult run and I'm kind of out of shape. And I started thinking about some of these basic things that really can apply and help you last longer while you're on the water and have more, enjoy yourself more when you're off the water, right? And a couple of things. One to start is using a light, loose grip. And your hand is not really round, it's egg-shaped. Therefore, we index our paddles, you probably felt that they're oval, right? But when I grab the paddle, I want to have a light, loose grip. If you over grip anything, like anytime I go golfing and I over grip it, it's not good. So a light, loose grip will help for you to reserve your energy, and also, you don't want to grab it so light that you're going to lose it. But thinking about using that light, loose grip is important. Another thing I always try to think about is, grabbing the paddle, keeping your hands or your arms about 90 degrees. You don't want to be too narrow, then you're going to be just kind of using your arms to paddle. You don't want to be too wide because then you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on your shoulders. The other thing I always think about as well is utilizing or recruiting my bigger muscle groups. If you go out and just paddle like this, which I see quite a few people do that, you're going to burn your arms out quite a bit. Recruiting your larger muscle groups and using your core to paddle, and you can watch my torso rotate, is going to give you a lot more power on the water And again, it's going to help you to stay on the water longer and not burn out. Those are some good just concepts to think about when you get out there. How about offsetting your blades? Why do we feather our paddle? What is the whole idea behind that? When I started kayaking, the first paddle I had was a 90-degree offset. From there, it went to 60, and then we used 45 degrees for many, many years, and now I'm using a 30. Well, a lot of people would, if you ask them, well, why do you do that? And I've heard this a lot. Well, it's wind resistance, right? You want to have the blade always cutting through the wind if you have oncoming wind with the thin part of your blade. Well, in all reality, offsetting your blades really helps to accommodate that natural rotation that I was showing you. And if you watch my hands and my torso rotate, you're going to have to offset that blade so it can get maximum purchase on the water each time. So a couple things to think about there. If you either have a specific offset you like, or you're thinking about going from a 0 degree to a 30 or R45, which are kind of the common offsets, those are some good concepts to understand. Talk about sizing, 4-piece paddles. I'm here to answer any questions. I don't have a whole lot of canoe paddles up here. My apologies for that. I can tell you this right now, when you walk out into that warehouse, which is just 2 doors beyond where I'm standing, every single paddle that's coming off the line is going into a box and out to a dealer or out to somebody. So I kind of had to steal these off the shelf, and I'm going to have to tape them up and return them back probably tonight before I go home.
One question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one question is IK sizing. How do people size paddles for IKs?
Great question. Great. So what we generally find is anywhere from like a 210 to 215, and if you're real tall, even a 220. And a great paddle is that powerhouse that I showed you. The thing with an inflatable kayak is that you're going to have to elevate the paddle to get it over the tube. So you're going to need a little longer paddle than you would if you were in a hard shell kayak. So I'd say if you're shorter, you're 5'5" and under, like a 210 centimeters good. You get up to about 5'7", you're going to be a 215, and if you're over 6 foot, you may consider a 220. And it also depends on the IK, which model it is and how wide it is.
The question for IK paddles also was about paddle shaft size.
Yes. Okay. We do offer 2 different diameters of shaft. Generally, a smaller statured person is going to like the small shaft. It's 8% smaller than the standard diameter. I can sit here and I can tell you about how to measure from your hand down. My best advice is to put both of them in your hands, either at one of our dealers or on the water, and get the feel for it. Okay. I know people who have bigger hands that still like the smaller diameter shaft size.
And there's one question that says thoughts on small shaft versus regular shaft with regard to over gripping or overuse injury. Are you more likely to overgrip one than the other?
That's more of a technique thing. I think when you think about it, I mean, it's only 8% smaller, and so there's not a huge difference. It's really just simply thinking about it while you're on the water. Those minor things can really help prolong your day, and you're going to be in a much better place after you get off the water as well.
Okay. And here's one for me, actually.
Yes.
Do you have thoughts on grip tape? Why do people put tape on your paddles?
Why not? We don't. We definitely don't. Poo-poo that at all. I mean, if it works good for you, and some people use wax. Personally, I've never. Sometimes in years past, I've put a couple of strips of tape so I know where my hands are. The beauty about a bench shaft is you always know where your hands are. But there's nothing wrong with putting tape on the shaft if that makes you more comfortable.
Got it. Okay. And then one last comment, and then we'll move on
Sure.
to helmets.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. It seems like torso length is more important than total height for paddle sizing. Agree or disagree?
Yeah. So does your shoulder width, right? There's a lot of different components that go into that that sizing model that we have. When we get into tour, there's another one called boat width, right? Because we have a lot of touring boats or wreck boats are wider or narrower. The torso thing, yeah, maybe it probably does play into it a little bit. It also depends on your paddle style. Especially with touring, there's two different styles of paddling. There's kind of a low angle style, and then there's a high angle style. So those two elements also play into your paddle length. With a high angle style, you're going to need a shorter paddle because it's your angle is much greater. With a low angle paddle, you're going to need a longer paddle because your angle is less to the water. So those components there, your style, and may have a little more to do with your torso height, but again, you may go a little shorter if you got super long legs and a shorter torso.
Got it. Okay. Okay, I have learned more than my brain can handle about only 3 of our 4 pieces of gear. And Ted, I just want to say, well, first of all, Taylor, I want to say thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have more Werner paddles than I should probably say out loud. So
We love it. Thank you for your support. And I will say sorry if we didn't cover canoe or touring, or give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. Visit our website at wernerpaddles.com or give us a call at 800-275-3311. And we've got paddlers over here that want to talk to you, and we want to help you, and we want to hear about what you're doing.
perfect. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to our participants to make sure you're on mute. We have one more speaker. We're going to ask Ted Keyes to tell us what he knows about helmets. And as I'm pulling him, into the speaker's role, we're losing one of our best commenters and chatters. I don't know if you've noticed that, but Ted has been sharing super helpful links and recommendations on socks for the Kokatat and the rest of it. And we also, honestly, I haven't noticed him in the comments, and I don't see him coming online, so I'm slightly worried we may have lost him. Let's take a look.
Oh, I'm here.
There he is. There you are.
How's my connection?
You are perfect. Passing to you to close us out with everything we should be thinking about or know about helmets. I can put my helmet back on if you'd like.
All right. Thank you, guys. I just shared the Salamander Shred Ready link in the comments. So if you haven't been in the comments, check that out.
Perfect.
And the most important thing, whether you're canoeing, sea kayaking, whitewater kayaking, or stand-up paddleboarding, if you are on moving water, we want to protect your head. So head's important. Rocks are hard. Little tip, when I teach swiftwater rescue, I always say 95% of accidents happen 10 feet from the water's edge and 10 feet into the water. So you could raise your hand if you wanted to, like, hey, if you've experienced that, but that is definitely a fact over, 40, 50 years of river safety and just whitewater safety or boating safety in general. It could be 10 feet from the dock, if you were in like a sailboat or a marine environment. But we really take helmet safety really important. One of the lines I rep is Shred Ready. And, just your typical whitewater helmet. Like Taylor and Shannon talked about, there's different materials. The most economical probably is ABS, and I won't say the scientific name for that. I would butcher it anyway, but it's injection molded material. Some people might just call it plastic. The resin is shot through a little jet into a really big machine and mold that can hold a ton of pressure and heat, and boom, voila, you can kick out a lot of these shells really fast. And then the liner, which I don't know if you guys can see, those two things are going to, be what protects your head. And there's different kinds of materials for the shell, and there's different kinds of materials for the liner. And the goal is to find one that fits your head. The fit on a helmet is just really important. We don't ship these to our dealers in a nice fancy box because fitting a water helmet is a lot more specific than fitting, say, a bike or a ski helmet, where there's like a lot of compressibility to gauge the fit and the comfort level. In a moving water environment, you're going to have current that can, something happened to my screen. Am I still here?
You are, but we have a small, Chuck? Yeah, I don't think you realize it, Chuck, but you are sharing your screen. So I'm going to unshare it for you. Okay, there we go. Back to you.
Okay. So the helmet, the shell, the liner, but right here, we call this Shred Ready. The founder, Tom Sherborne, is a PhD in psychology, and he got tired of doing experiments and he started a helmet company. He was also up and coming kayaker on the US development team. And we call this the hand of God adjustment. And if you took anatomy, or if you're a health science person, your skull has different lobes or different bones, and the bone behind your head here is the occipital process. And I don't know if you guys have heard that, but the occipital process is really where we want to get a good lock on our, I'm going to share it here in the chat so you can kind of look at that. But the occipital process, if you just feel the little tuberosity on the lower part of that bone above, right where your neck starts, you can kind of feel that. Everybody's is a little different. Everybody's head is a little different. It's not just small heads and large heads. We all have, different shapes going on. Are we long this way, or are we long this way? Or are we wide? Or are we, perfectly round dome? Nobody, sure, some people are, but what I want to get across is we don't ship the helmets in a box to just put on the shelf and you to go measure your head and go pick one up and take it home and, go on the river. We really want you to try it on, and we want to adjust it to get a real customized fit. And we can accomplish that in two ways. One, the size of the helmet. It comes with shims inside the helmet. So that red right there is just Velcroed on. And then we have different sizes. So if you want a tighter fit, you would go with a small or a medium. If you wanted a really tight fit, or you just had a smaller head, you would want to get a small. And each helmet comes with these shims. But the most important thing is that you start with a helmet that you can fit on, that you can adjust in cold water. We wear a neoprene cap. Shannon talked about socks and just having some over socks to help protect your booties. We might put a skull cap on. Sometimes of the year, we might have really long hair. We might get a really short haircut before a long Grand Canyon trip. So you want that adjustability over time to customize that fit. I can talk all night. So if anybody had any questions, I'm kind of taking the time to just look over here. Oh, am I cutting out?
Yeah, only occasionally. Everyone really already has their videos off, so I'm just doing a quick scroll to see if I can help. But yeah.
So for getting a helmet, something as customizable as a helmet, I recommend you go to your local shop, and they're going to have helmets, and the salespeople should really help you try them on, get you in the right size, understand its adjustability, not just for leaving the shop, but that how to loosen your helmet if you're going to wear a skull cap when it's cold out, or and there's different thicknesses of all those skull caps or that you might wear. I had a couple of friends that I kayaked with early in my career that were on the University of Washington swim team. And these guys would show up at Robe Canyon with swim caps, or at the Wenatchee, they would just wear like a simple latex swim cap. And that's, you're going to be really dry, and those are super thin. But even that super thin swim cap, just compressing your hair in different places, depending on your haircut or your hairstyle, it's going to change the fit of your helmet. So just want to emphasize that. I can't emphasize it enough. And then there's different kinds. So I'll put a couple links, but you could have a helmet over the ears, or you could have a helmet covering your ears. And I think it just depends on the people that you started paddling with, really. If everybody had a ear coverage, you probably have ear coverage. If everybody started with, a ball cap style, just for super simple, then, your ears are open. And then there's advantages, if you can hear. I like to hear really well, so I'm a over the ears guy. But then a lot of my friends go cover the ears. If you've ever hit your ear on rock, you're probably going to be an ear coverage person for the rest of your, paddling time. But just a couple different styles here that I can show. And I think that's pretty much it.
And Ted, we do have a few questions in the chat. One from, I think it was from Tammy. Direct message. So I have a WRSI Trident. When I'm swimming, I cannot see. Any suggestions on how I can stick something to push my helmet upwards so I can see where I'm going? It sounds like
definitely your sight and where you're going is important. That comes back to, how can I say this? I took anatomy and I taught anatomy before I became a rep. And that occipital process is going to be a big determinant on how much that helmet slides down. So you could do a couple things. I think I want to start here, with the Shred Ready helmets with the Hand of God strap right there. And this is adjustable. I don't know if you can hear the click, click, click. But on your WSRI, you want to have that adjusted back there to where it really locks tight. Sometimes for other heads, it can be the straps here. And these straps are adjustable with this piece. I can change the angle of attack. And in Shred Ready, we want this perpendicular, 90 degrees to the ground. And that way, then we start tightening it a little bit more. We get the circumference of the helmet here and in the rear, just the circumference. You could shim it to make it tighter around the circumference of your head. So those are three things: the rear, which I think is the most important, the circumference, and the straps on the sides, if that answers.
That was perfect. We have two other questions coming in. One is, can you talk a little bit, and Tammy says, thank you so much. And then the other question is, can you speak about full face helmets versus not full face? That's question number one. And then question number two was about the life cycle of a helmet. Do they degrade over time even without sunlight?
I think sunlight on ABS can. All of the coatings, which are all paints, have a UV stabilizer. If your helmet's starting to fade, you need a new helmet. If your helmet is more than 10 years old, you need a new helmet. 5 years, you need to think about getting a new helmet. If you have a big impact, you need to think about getting a new helmet. And that could be falling out of your tailgate or out of the Subaru and landing on pavement. Those things are going to compromise the integrity of the liner or the shell. And it's hard for me to say really specifically when, but we definitely say test your gear, try it out. If you have, ask someone more experienced, ask the most experienced person in your crew, go to the local shop. The shops are great. We're the people that train these shops. So hopefully they're trained well to answer all your questions.
Perfect. And then the full face, thoughts on full face helmets?
Yeah, full faces are great. Shred Ready, we make a full face, and I could pull up the link here, but full face, if you're worried about, hitting your jaw injuries can happen. We don't wear mouthpieces kayaking, so, dental injuries can happen. And most of these are going to happen class 4, class 5. So a full face can offer you protection. And I just, I just want to share the link there so you can check it out, because some people might not know what we're talking about, but it's basically a motocross style that has the helmet shell extends over your jaw and your teeth and your nose. if you're running really big stuff, like some of the kids are, that's extra material that can take an impact, and that's going to move your head back. And then we're making some things vulnerable in our first two vertebrae. So don't think that the full face is just going to protect you in every situation, because it's not. But it does offer, more protection, but then there's also risks with that. And, it's just part of the sport, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Shannon and I are learning so much. Thank you, Ted.
Happy to be here with you guys.
I just love that, 65, 70, 75 people will hang out on a Tuesday night and talk about helmet straps over Zoom. I just love it so much. So any other, I think at this point we can open it up to questions for everyone. I want to make sure, I'm just looking through the chat to make sure we got everything, but you can also pop any new questions up. Here comes a new one. Oh, just a thank you. That was very good to learn about. I know, I agree, Kate. I'm kind of like, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Gauge life of a helmet. We got you. Presentation. We did the best we could. We answered that one. Oh, I know, Shannon. Someone asked earlier a question about when you're washing your dry suit, do you need to wash it inside or outside? Wash it in or outside? I don't mean outdoors. I mean, do you?
Got it.
Yeah.
Wash it right side out, and like I mentioned before, you may rinse it again. And when you rinse it again, you might even do a second full cycle, but with no soap, with it inside out. So soap with it right side out, a second cycle with no soap with it inside out.
Okay.
I hope that answers that question.
I think it does. Perfect. And then another one for dry suits, are all replacement gaskets created equal?
They're all very similar, but they are designed a little bit differently. So, but latex is latex.
Latex is latex. Okay. Wash zipped or unzipped?
Unzipped. This is fun.
This is fun.
It's like trivia 101.
I wash mine with Woolite, someone says, and then
Nice.
in response to the question, what detergent should you use? So are you good with the Woolite?
Yes, because Ted Keys told me that.
Wow,
Ted Keys knows everything about Kokatat too.
Okay, dry suits use lubrication on non-metal zipper?
Ted, what do you think about lubrication on a non-metal zipper?
Use the wax, or you could use Vaseline petroleum jelly, but just really specifically, do not use petroleum jelly on gasket. Do not do that.
Okay.
Okay, good. You are cutting out, but then you come back full sentence, so we still get to hear what you have to
It's
say.
like he leaves us hanging,
and then he gives it to us.
I told the kids not to play video games while I was on this call, but they might have snuck some in.
Oh my God, Dad, it's you. Because everyone else has got their videos off, including us. How long does a life vest last, Shannon?
I think similar to Ted's answer, 10 years is starting to get a little bit long, but look at how it's fading and look at how your label's lasting. I think that's a good indicator of your life vest. But yeah, they don't last forever.
Okay. And I don't know if I think Taylor's still with us, though I turned off his video. Poor guy.
Clear? Yep.
There you are. I don't know how to get you back. We had a question earlier that we didn't get to that was about breakdown paddles.
Yes.
And just any tips or tricks for when they're really stuck and hard to get.
Yeah. So a couple things. All of our paddles are handcrafted. So one thing that we do see kind of that can happen from time to time is somebody will take the right half and put it together with the left blade. And because everything is so precise and crafted differently,
Taylor?
There he is.
we're,
There we go.
we're all staring at our screens thinking, what is going on?
Taylor, you cut out halfway through that.
Yeah. Yeah, Taylor, you are unfortunately muted, so we need you to unmute yourself. Oh, he's coming back. Ted, what do you think he was gonna say? What have we done?
Oh no.
I can't get my breakdown apart, Taylor, and I'm going on a grand trip next weekend. I'm glad someone asked that.
You can send it in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you can try all you want. You can soak it in warm water with a little bit of Dawn dishwasher detergent. Sometimes it'll break down some of the dirt and grime that's in it. Or you can send it back to us, and we will generally be able to pull it apart and get it back to you. But what I was saying earlier, I'm not sure if you caught it, is one of the things that can happen is you put it together backwards, or you take the right half and put it together with the left blade on accident. And because those parts are all custom made, sometimes that'll really get them stuck. I got one today that was that way. So try to make sure by keeping those parts clean, the ferrule, as well as where the push button enters the blade, washing that out from time to time. Because a lot of people will put them in the back of their kayaks, they rattle around, they get debris stuck in them, so keeping them washed will help.
Okay, perfect. I feel certain I never knew there was a left blade and a right blade to my breakdown paddle, so now I want to go check because mine have been stuck for a long time. I have benefited so much from this talk. I just want to reiterate my thank you to Shannon, to Ted, and to Taylor for taking time on a school night, if you will, to share your thoughts with the Lower Columbia Canoe Club and other guests. Excellent presentations. Thank you, Debbie. I thought so too. We saw a lot of appreciation, a lot of thank yous coming in. Someone else also said, I'm just filled with anticipation. So I think that was probably someone who was waiting for their paddle or waiting for their dry suit or their life jacket or their helmet. It could be anything. So we always record the talks. This talk is no exception. So we'll be sending a recording out. And I do think that our speakers were sincere when they said if you have additional questions that they or any of their colleagues could answer, don't hesitate. You can shoot them to the club, and we'll make sure they get routed to the right folks. And with that, I think it's a wrap. Thank you again.
Cool. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Good night, everyone. Oh, I love
Hey,
the
thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Paddle safe.
paddle safe. Wear your helmet, your life jacket, your dry suit, your booties, your socks. Take your paddle.
Wax the things.
Wax all the things.
The other
Put them in the washer. Thank you all, you nice people, for saying nice things in the chat. These are always, they're fun to do when you know that it's information that people are enjoying. Good night, everyone. Send your notes to Sammy if you want to do the great info and so well moderated. Oh, thanks, Sherry. Did you like my dry suit? No.
Good.
I didn't. Well, I feel like I need to get a new one. I didn't know it was a classic. It's kind of an old.
It's good.
Yeah, I've had it as long as I started paddling.
It lasts forever.
Well, good. And it's custom, because kind of small.
Hey, Shannon,
Yeah.
next time I want to do watershed dry backs.
Okay.
Oh, that's a really.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Totally forgot.
Next time, Ted.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Bye, Ted. Bye, Taylor.
Good night. See, Taylor.
And also sorry about all the technical difficulties, everyone. It's not an LCCC talk if there's not a technical difficulty. All right. I think we're down to the last few, so we're going to go ahead and hang up again. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you at the next talk. Good night.